Hello everyone, welcome to Deep 6. This is a special Ward the Shores game of Spirit Island in which we're going to try and sink 6 boards. I was going to do a little bit of an introduction, but we're already well into turn 1 here. So turn 1 is going to be the first scaling turn. And let's see, we got lucky with Gifted Constancy and Gifted Twin Days and the days that never were for Fractured Days there. Stone is taking its first major power draft of many. Yeah, we're going to be banking time on Fractured. We're going to get a little extra energy on Green. We're going to try and do a minimal thing to interact with the invaders. Not too much going on this turn. It's really about scaling and getting ready for later in the game, as well as a little bit of actual Spirit Island, as opposed to what we'll be doing once we get to about turn 8. So yeah, there's not much more to say there. We're on to turn 2 now. Here on turn 2, this is our first slip turn. Fractured Days is going to slip Gift of Proliferation 3 times to allow us to use it a total of 4 times. That's going to get us 2 proliferations on Stone, 1 on Locust, and 1 on Deeps. That's going to be really big for setting up Stone's Presence track to get to max energy very quickly, and to technically not max card plays, but very close to max card plays for a couple of turns from now when we're going to be doing the same kind of slip thing, but with Boon of Vigor instead. We are hunting for a particular major, 2 particular majors, I should say, with Stone right now. We want to find Power Storm and weave together the Fabric of Place. Now, the idea here is we want to be able to sink an entire 6-board island, which normally you can't really do in Spirit Island, because Deeps just doesn't get enough sink triggers to do it. However, weave together the Fabric of Place lets you get around that limitation by weaving a bunch of lands together into a mega land. When we get that mega land put together, we can then sink it in a single action, and well, you'll see as we get further in how many lands we'll be able to sink at once. Most of the spirits here are on sort of a support duty. We're still doing slips on Gift of Proliferation here. Okay. So most spirits are kind of on support minor duty. They're trying to find things like Gift of Power, which Green has, trying to find, if I don't think we get it yet, but Spur On with Words of Fire on River shortly is going to be a nice big one for this game. Generally, that's going to be Deeps, River, and Green that are doing that, as well as to a limited extent Fractured. Fractured having Gift of Twin Days and Gift of Constancy in particular. Now, Locust is not going to draft pretty much all game because we just want to bank energy. The combo we're going to do is going to require playing Weave so many times that it's going to cost us a fortune, and we're going to have to pay for that via Stone's and Locust's energy track. So Locust is not going to draft much. All right, on to turn 3. This is another scaling turn. We were able to get some good drafts this turn, so Spur On with Words of Fire. Because of the drafts we've gotten so far with Fractured, I actually was originally planning to do a reclaim here, and then decided not to do a reclaim because we could, and get a little more presence and time off that way. And then, let's see, there's Power Storm, very important part of the combo, which we got on Stone. I would have preferred to have found Weave first and then gotten Power Storm on a different spirit. But it is what it is, and it still worked out. Green risked drafting up major here, and we got Unrelenting Growth, which actually is going to pay off huge for us over the course of the game. Unrelenting Growth, in particular, when you threshold it, allows a spirit to draft again, so we're going to use that to get more major drafts on Stone. This is definitely one where if I were to do this again, I'd have to reconsider the spirit composition a little bit, because getting enough drafts to actually find Weave turns out to be more problematic than I was expecting it to be. We haven't really talked about Absorb Essence yet. Part of the way, I should talk about the combo in a minute, but part of the way that this combo is going to work is we're going to be repeating land targeting powers at Serpent's Incarna. And in order to do that, we need to have Absorbed Essence once for each repeat we want. So, because of that, in the ideal case, we're going to absorb Stone a total of 6 times over the course of the first 7 turns of the game. Well, first 8 turns of the game. And then with that, we should be able to get Stone to play 12 instances, I think, or no, more than that. A lot of instances of Weave Together the Fabric of Place. Now, the way that the combo we're looking at works is it's basically just throw repeats at stone, play Weave Together, and then repeat weave as many times as possible. But the really interesting combo, I think, is the way that it's supposed to interact with Slip the Flow of Time, which is to say that Slip the Flow of Time actually picks up the power card and puts it back into play, which theoretically means that you can use another Power Storm repeat on it. So you should be able to play weave a total of, I believe it's 14 times in a single turn, which is kind of nuts. So other thing to note here before we get into turn 4, we're not really syncing lands with deeps yet. We're going to wait until we've got the combo going a lot more, and then at that point we'll actually start syncing things. All right, this is the second slip turn. This is our big Boon of Vigor turn. We're going to try and get Stone to have 6 cards in play, at least, and then use Boon of Vigor on Stone at least 4 times. I think because of Gift of Twin Days, we actually get to use Boon of Vigor an additional time, and so that gets it up a little bit higher. But Stone is going to end up with a fairly ludicrous amount of energy at the end of this turn, and yet it is nowhere near where we want to get to eventually. But yeah, so Serpent has Gift of the Flowing Power and Gift of the Primordial Deeps, which both basically let Stone get an extra card into play this turn. Let's see. Green gets Gift of Living Energy, which normally nice energy support. Not so useful in this game. I mean, it'll do some work, but it's going to be small potatoes. All right, so Stone has 6 cards in play, and we're going to start Boon. We actually Gift of Living Energy not on Stone, I believe, because of that. I believe I used it on River there. So Stone is going to get up to... Once we get all these Boon of Vigors figured out, Stone should end up at about 47 energy, if I wrote my notes correctly here, which is kind of ridiculous. That's a lot of energy. We also have more Gift of Proliferation coming out. Stone is gaining... Oh, is Stone gaining 7 energy? Wait, did I miscount that? Oh, Stone might have gotten through its... Stone is getting 7 energy per Boon of Vigor, and I don't remember exactly why. I think that it was River either using Spur On with Words of Fire, or possibly we actually just got Stone's track already to the ridiculousness of having 2 card plays as well. So Stone might have an empty track already, thanks to Unrelenting Growth and Gift of Proliferation, plus it being Stone and growing every turn. We got Absorb Essence there. So Serpent is still absorbing Stone. Did I use a slip on that? I may have used a slip on that. I don't remember why I used a slip on that. Probably because Stone had enough energy and I wasn't worried about it at this point and was more worried about getting the absorbs into place. This game is going by very quickly because the raw recording for this took 5 hours, and I don't think anyone, myself included, wants to sit around for 5 hours watching this particular game, especially when the thing we care about the most pretty much is right near the end anyway. So let's see here. As this turn wraps up, we're getting to the slow phase. We have a few more plays to make. Look at the event, put it back in shuffle. We're going to go into the next scaling turn. Stone went down a little bit on energy because we paid for some repeats, but that's fine. So now we're on the next scaling turn. This is turn 5. Fractured's going to have to take a reclaim this turn to set up for next turn, but with 2 card plays can still at least play Twin Days and Constancy, which is a ridiculous combo of cards. So we get that and get some reclaims out there. Then Locust is getting into a decent place energy-wise. We really want to get Locust to its 12 energy spot if possible, because once we're at the 12 energy spot, that easily pays for a good chunk of our Weave repeats. I think at the end of this turn, Locust ends up sitting at about 33 energy. So that should be pretty good. Got a little pause there. Probably had to walk away from the computer for a minute. And before card play, or no, after card plays, we should get up there because we've got Absorb Essence to gain another 3, and we're moving the Locust around. To some extent, I'm still actually trying to play Spirit Island here, but mostly that's because I want to not die on the island. We're not going to get that close to Blighted. We still have 7 Blight left on the card, but it is likely that we're going to get even more ridiculous as time goes on in terms of getting Blight back, because Stone gets to just generate free Blight. So, useful thing there. And here's an undo because I messed something up on my card plays. And we get our Gift of Constancies, a few different powers. There's Locust up to 33 energy, Stone's up at 51. I noticed in this game, as my energy totals got bigger, I feel like the energy symbol got bigger and never really shrunk afterwards. I don't know if that's actually true or if that was just my perspective. We're working through the event, some fear cards. At this point, the invaders are very not scary. We're going to get a little scarier briefly when we hit stage 3 because we're playing with Ward the Shores. The reason we want Ward the Shores is we want to make sure that we don't accidentally win the game too soon by clearing the island, for example, or generating too much fear. So Ward the Shores will end the game when there's a warding pattern in every coastal land, which should also happen when there are no coastal lands, because all 0 coastal lands will have warding patterns in them. There we've got Stone taking another draft off of Unrelenting Growth. Still not seeing Weave, which is a little bit problematic, but we'll get there. And then just finishing up this turn with Ocean. Reclaim a few cards and go into our next slip turn 6 of the game. This is the 3rd slip turn. Stone needs a bunch of cards in play for Boon of Vigor. Stone's going to have, I think, 7 pretty easily off of 2 card plays plus 4 card plays. No, plus 3 card plays. 2 card plays base plus 3 card plays from top track plus getting a couple in play from Locust, most likely. Then River's found Spur, so we don't actually need to push quite as hard with Locust. So actually, I'm going to take off this turn. Instead of playing both gifts, I'm going to play Absorb Essence and just keep on getting more presence absorbed on Stone. River finds Swarming Wasps, which isn't going to do a whole lot, but hey, it'll probably push some Explorers around or make another beast that can turn into a Kraken or some other thing as the beasts slowly end up in the ocean. But I definitely start freaking out a little bit at this point because I still haven't found Weave, and I don't have that many turns left to find it because I really need it by turn 8. And that's just, I mean, it is what it is, but it is a little nerve-wracking here. So let's see, we play Power Storm, which I think I used to get us another Boon of Vigor even. Stone's got, it looks like 7 cards in play. We're playing some Spirit Island here, trying to actually not just sling support powers, but also deal with some of these lands. And then Blur of the Arc of Years, clean up a Blight. It would be nice to make more Dahan potentially, but this game is not going to end well for the Dahan, as do many Deeps games. I saw someone comment on how Deeps games are one of the only ones that I've seen that are worse for the Dahan than Volcano games, which is kind of amazing, because Volcano games usually do not end well for the Dahan. All right, Stone's sitting at 80 energy, Locust is at 55. We're still not done with Boon of Vigor yet. I think I saw Stone at 96 there for a moment. And if my notes are right, Stone should peak at 104 energy. Yeah, pay a couple, but that's pretty ridiculous. And when I say peak, I mean peak for this turn, because we're still going higher. We're not done with it yet. Ooh, unlock the gates of deepest power. That's a cool pull there, because again, that lets us dig further in the major deck. It's not weave, but hey, we've got one more downturn here. Turn 7 is our 4th scaling turn, and we're probably going to be able to do a little bit of stuff on that turn with drafting majors. So, finishing off these, and then pick back up a few cards from Gift of Constancy. Stone goes for a major. Still no weave. So that's a problem, because we really, really need weave. And so we're going to play Unlock the Gates of Deepest Power. We're going to have green try and do Unrelenting Growth. And we're just going to start having to burn slips this turn on getting Unrelenting Growth, because we just don't have another option. So this is not a turn when I wanted to be doing slips necessarily, especially because it means that Fractured is going to be very short on time for the next few turns when we're actually doing our weave combo. But, if we don't have weave, we can't do the weave combo. So, all right. Fractured is playing out a slip combo. I don't remember exactly which cards it was for that. We're playing out different ones here on River. There's also some stuff going on in the game that's kind of worth paying attention to. Like A2 is kind of built up and about to ravage. And there's some other areas that we need to deal with. Unlock the gates, missed. We got flow like water, reach like air instead of weave. And so this is where I think I finish up using up all my fast powers and then start burning slips to try and find weave off of Unrelenting Growth. And flow like water, reach like air pulls River's presence into the ocean and solves A2. There's not a lot of scary stuff left on the island at this point. There's maybe like a couple of cities across all the boards, maybe a few towns left, but mostly just explorers, and there's some pretty big pockets getting built here. So overall, this is getting a lot less threatening as far as an actual game of Spirit Island goes, but again, our goal here is not Spirit Island. Our goal here is Underwater Menace. So, we have to play some stuff. We don't get weave. We try Unrelenting Growth again. And we don't get weave. We get Transformative Sacrifice, which is cool and could be useful. I don't think I can afford to do any more slips with Fractured at the... Oh, no, I can afford to do one more. So I try once more... No, I don't. Never mind. I can't afford to do any more slips. I need to bank the 3 time in order to go into the combo turns. And so this is where the video sort of gets it's sort of make or break for the video and this game, because if I don't get weave in the next 2 drafts on Stone, then I can't combo. I won't be able to do it fast enough in order to actually sink the entire island. All right, we get the stage 3 cards now. So now stage 3, all their explorers add towns as well, which is a little terrifying. And there it is, weave together the fabric of place. So we have weave and power storm. That's just what we need. We couldn't. Let's see. We're getting pretty ridiculously high on Stone with energy. I don't think we're going to hit it quite yet, but next turn we are going to peak at, I believe, 113 energy. Which, again, that energy symbol seems to be getting bigger and bigger, I think, because Stone's is so oversized here. We're at 107 right now, and we'll get a little bit more before we actually start doing the combo. So... All right, so time for the combo. The idea is going to be play weave, use weave, repeat it at the locus, use power storm, repeat weave, repeat it at the locus, pick up weave, play weave, use weave, repeat it at the locus, use power storm, repeat weave at the locus again, or repeat weave and then repeat it at the locus again. So we get a totally ridiculous number of weaves. This is also, let's see. Yeah, Stone's got a reclaim here to play a bunch of cards. We want to threshold both Weave and Power Storm if we can. Part of this is nice because thresholding Weave means we get to remove 2 invaders with every single use of it. And so as our Mega Land gets built, we're also going to be clearing a lot of the plastic from it, if not all of the plastic from it. Serpent has empty tracks, and 84 energy, I think, was the peak there. Maybe 85. I might have missed it. And yeah, so let's take a look at this combo here. It's not going to look as impressive right away because we're just weaving a bunch of lands together. And also, this is where I realize that the combo doesn't work quite the way I thought it did in digital. So I've been told that the correct rules interpretation is that I should be able to repeat Weave again off of Power Storm if I've slipped it. But that isn't what ends up happening in digital right now. So Beanleby, you know, if you get that fixed, let me know, and I will try and do this again, but with 8 boards instead of 6. But yes, so we don't get to actually weave 15 lands together off of 14 uses of Weave, but we still get to weave 11 times, or 10 times for 11 lands together, which then if we sink a second land, an individual land, in addition to those 11, we're still going to get 12 lands sunk a turn, which we only need to sink 48 lands, and so that's going to be just enough to let us actually get through the entire island. So we don't really have the spare cards right now to speed up deeps, just because there are still some things going on. I'm starting to build this little like haven land in D7 where I'm trying to get presents from all the spirits and a bunch of Dahan saved up, just to be like, hey, we'll have some part of the island still exist. And here's a fun one. We pay 6 energy to stop a single blight, and we've got so much energy, why not? Although we don't want to spend a ton of the energy off of Stone or Locust because they still need to be paying a ton for it. Using Weave 10 times in a turn costs 40 energy. If we'd been able to do the full version of the combo and we were doing it 14 times in a turn, then it would be costing us, what is that, I can totally do math. 56 energy per turn, split between the Locust and Stone. So I spent some time on the Discord with folk recently. Oh, here we go. There's our first sync. Which I immediately undo because I realize I need to sink another land next to it instead of just using the sync on the same one. So we're 25% of the way there, and the game at this point starts lagging really badly. It's hard to tell when it's sped up like this, and so you can see me flickering back to the menu a few times. Regardless, this is a point at which I I'm playing around with things to see if I can get it to behave a little bit better. I do take an actual break there briefly and then reload the game entirely, just because I was at about 3 hours, I think, at that point, and needed to work on some other things. But other than that, we're still here on just finishing up sort of the slow phase here after we've drowned the first chunk of the island, and trying to clean up as much plastic as we can. We've got that stage 3 surge coming, I think, as I've talked about, where the invaders are throwing extra towns down, and so that kind of gets annoying. But we're just going to focus on sinking sort of on board F and D this next turn, and just get rid of a bunch of those mountains and jungles, a bunch of sands as well. One funny thing that I don't think I've mentioned yet is that we actually have this sort of cleanup process when the big deeps lands get sunk, and it puts a bunch of pieces into the ocean. But if you have the pieces split across or the weave land split across multiple boards, it kind of does strange things where you can accidentally move all the pieces off of one board. So we don't actually have any ocean presence on board C right now, I think, despite having some inland ocean on board C. and the entire thing being coastal. So that's gonna just mess me up a little bit going forward, where I'm going to try and push some invaders into the ocean. That's not going to let me in a couple of instances, just because ocean isn't technically on that board. Let's see. Other than that, we're here on turn 9. The threshold of weave gets to remove 2 invaders. I think I mentioned that briefly earlier. But that actually turns out to be pretty useful in not having to worry about dealing damage with deeps. We can just clear off the invaders with weave, and then from there easily sink the land. All right. Here we go. We're weaving together. Nope, we're not weaving together. Oh, because I forgot to get the last element in order to actually get the remove invaders and isolate. So what else was going on this turn? I did want to try and focus again on, jungles, sands, and mountains this turn. I end up kind of just sinking all of board F and a little bit of board D. So I don't do a great job of focusing there, but there's really only one jungle left that has any kind of threat in it, and it's B4. And we've got Stones Innate there to just utterly destroy the invaders on the clapback. We also are going to drown some more invaders there, try and keep... So like the east and northeast side of the island are basically clear. And here we go. Here's our sink. And you can see at this point the game got really upset. Like, we're watching this at 8x speed, and it's going fairly slowly. Just got to get all those tokens moved, and then there we go. We are 50% of the way to sunk. Now this turn, I think I mentioned earlier, I do forget to actually sink a second land, or a 12th land technically, with ocean. And so we're going to end up a little bit behind. I end up taking advantage of that to try and build this sort of built up survivor's land in D7, where I'm putting presents from as many spirits as I can, and I've got a bunch of Dahan in there. Yeah, here's my confusion on Washaway, is whether I can't drown C2 for some reason. But we get around that pretty quickly. Unrelenting Growth. Get some presents. So now we've got 4 of the 6 spirits into that D7 land. We're drowning a few more invaders, drowning some more Dahan, unfortunately. 13 Dahan built up in D7 along with a couple of wilds. And yeah, so right now the island is going to be pretty absurdly clear from here on out as we go into turn 10. But even so, it's just going to take us a little longer to actually sink everything. Because of where I decide to go and sink lands this turn, we're going to end up with kind of this weird long strip of lands left over for the last turn of slipping, or of weave and sinking, rather. But yeah, other than that, not too much more notable on this turn, or not too much more notable in some ways in the rest of the game here. I'm gonna take another real life break here in a moment, go back to the menu, and then from there we'll resume and finish out the game. And now into the last session for this game. I ended up doing this across 3 sessions. Just the game performed a lot better after I gave it a night to rest. My entire computer turned off and everything. And so I'm thinking that some of the issues here were just that my rig is not quite as strong as I wanted it to be when I'm doing 6-player Spirit Island games. Let's see. We got Ocean's Presence onto land C4, which is delightfully a coastal land now. despite C1, 2, and 3 still existing. It's just we sank our way to it over on the other side. And we're going to have a little more pseudo-glitchy behavior here, I think, once we get the invaders taken care of and do our weave combo again. But but we're going to be able to get our way through it, just thankfully, because otherwise this game would not have ended. That would have been disappointing. All right. So let's do our weave combo. We start weaving over here. I'm weaving around D7 to try and save that land for now. Move some of Stone's presence in there. So now we've got 5 of 6 spirits in that land. And Ocean's nearby, so that's fine. It's actually still technically an inland land. There's not many of those left at this point. There's, I think, 4 of them. No, there's another. There's more on Ocean's starting board up on the top right. Which is, yeah, that's E. But kind of weave this pattern here, try and get a bunch of sinks in shortly. And this event got kind of upset with me. I don't know why. There are no invaders on the island, but going to the menu and going back here, let the game continue even though the event is still showing there on the bottom of the screen. And I'm not really sure why that happened the way it did, but it didn't seem to break things permanently, so that's good. All right, now we sink the land, and I shove everything into the ocean on board C. And we've got sort of this long stretch of island left, which consists of 13 lands. Oh, and we got Farmers Seek the Dahan for aid off of Visions of a Shifting Future, and we immediately bottomed that. Not that it probably would have made any difference, but it just would have been mildly annoying. So we've got our little Dahan capital there with 16 Dahan in it, 5 different spirits presence. It is coastal now, so we can get ocean in there. And yeah, I think the thing that really stood out to me at this point in the game was that I was way less energy constrained than I expected to be. Stone still has like 80 plus energy at this point, and we're almost done sinking the island. And so I think I just sort of overestimated how much energy and how many repeats were actually necessary for this game. Now, if we do this again later, and I try to sink a 8-board island by starting with an extra board and using Dream of the Untouched Land to put another extra board out, then energy might be a little more of a challenge, just because that's going to add 16 more lands, is another 64 energy worth of weaves, most likely. But then again, now that I'm saying that and looking at it, Serpent and Stone have tons of energy left. So, all right. Playing a few more support powers before we start the weave nonsense again. The island is totally clear of invaders at this point, I'll note. But we have not won because Ward the Shores is in effect, and we haven't placed any warding patterns yet this game. But we are going to weave together all but one of the remaining lands, or all but 2 of the remaining lands, excuse me. Because we want to... We're actually going to sink the non-mega land first this time, just to make where we push Deeps tokens slightly more advantageous. So I'm gonna go ahead and sink B1 and push the Deeps tokens in there, and then I'll repeat on the mega land and shove everything into D7. All right, everything goes into the ocean of board D, which is having quite the party. We've got a lot of tokens and presence there. And we've got a bit of a party going on in D7 as well, which is nice. Got all 6 spirits, 18 Dahan, some Deeps tokens, and yeah, you can see that event that I was looking at earlier, I don't think is there. And now at this point, it's kind of like, well, what's the point of sinking the rest of the island? I mean, at this point, it's just like a little tiny Dahan paradise, right? Well, that is true. We probably could just leave the island here, but I really, really wanted the pretty screen grab at the very end of having the entire island sunk, and so I was a terrible person, and I sunk the remaining bit of the island. 19 Dahan, actually, excuse me. So that, I mean, we killed all the Dahan. We killed everything on the island, basically. So this is the brutality of deeps. We don't even bother playing most of our stuff this turn. Just sink everything. Game over. Victory, because there is a warding pattern in every coastal land, of which there are none. Not a very high score, but overall a very fun game, even if it took a long time, and well worth it, I think. All right, well, thank you everyone for watching. Have a great rest of your day.